Every book of the Rambam begins by quoting a relevant verse. Extend your kindness to those who know you, and your righteousness to the upright of heart. The first book, which is the Book of Knowledge. It contains 5 halachos. They are in order: the laws which are the foundations of the Torah, the laws of personal development, the laws of Torah study, the laws governing the prohibition against the worship of stars and spiritual forces, and the statutes of the idolaters, the laws of teshuvah. The laws which are the foundations of the Torah. They contain 10 mitzvos, 6 positive commandments, and 4 negative commandments. They are: to know that there is a God, not to consider that there is another divinity aside from God, to unify him, to love him, to fear him, to sanctify his name, not to profane God's name, not to destroy those things associated with his name, to listen to a prophet who speaks in God's name, not to test God. The explanation of these mitzvos is found in the following chapters. The foundation of all foundations and the pillar of wisdom is to know that there is a primary being who brought all existence into being. All the entities in the heavens, the earth, and what is between them came into existence only from the truth of his being. If one would imagine that he does not exist, no other being could possibly exist. If one would imagine that none of the entities aside from him exist, he alone would continue to exist, and the nullification of their existence would not nullify his existence, because all the other entities require him, and he, blessed be he, does not require them, nor any one of them. Therefore the truth of his being does not resemble the truth of any of their beings. This is implied by the prophet's statement, "And God your Lord is true," meaning he alone is true, and no other entity possesses truth that compares to his truth. This is what is meant by the Torah's statement, "There is nothing else aside from him," meaning, aside from him, there is no true existence like his. This entity is the God of the world and the Lord of the entire earth. He controls the sphere with infinite and unbounded power. This power continues without interruption because the sphere is constantly revolving, and it is impossible for it to revolve without it being caused to revolve. It is he, blessed be he, who causes it to revolve without a hand or any other corporeal dimension. The knowledge of this concept is a positive commandment, as implied by the verse, "I am God, your Lord." Anyone who presumes that there is another God transgresses a negative commandment, as it states, "You shall have no other gods before me," and denies the fundamental principle of faith, because this is the great principle of faith upon which all depends. This God is one. He is not 2 or more, but one, unified in a manner which surpasses any unity that is found in the world, meaning he is not one in the manner of a general category which includes many individual entities, nor one in the way that the body is divided into different portions and dimensions. Rather, he is unified, and there exists no unity similar to his in this world. If there were many gods, they would have body and form, because, like entities, are separated from each other only through the circumstances associated with body and form. Were the Creator to have body and form, he would have limitation and definition, because it is impossible for a body not to be limited, and any entity which itself is limited and defined possesses only limited and defined power. Since our God, blessed be his name, possesses unlimited power, as evidenced by the continuous revolution of the sphere, we see that his power is not the power of a body. Since he is not a body, the circumstances associated with bodies that produce division and separation are not relevant to him. Therefore, it is impossible for him to be anything other than one. The knowledge of this concept fulfills a positive commandment, as implied by the verse, "Hear Israel, God is our Lord, God is one." Now, it is explicitly stated in the Torah and the works of the prophets that the Holy One, blessed be he, is not confined to a body or physical form, as it states, "Because God your Lord is the Lord in the heavens above and the earth below, and a body cannot exist in 2 places simultaneously." Also, it states, "For you did not see any image," and it states, "To whom can you liken me, with whom I will be equal?" Were he confined to a body, he would resemble other bodies. If so, what is the meaning of the expressions employed by the Torah, "below his feet," written by the finger of God, God's hand, God's eyes, God's ears, and the like? So, all of these expressions were used to relate to human thought processes which know only corporeal imagery, for the Torah speaks in the language of man. They are only descriptive terms, as apparent from the verse, "I will whet my lightning sword." Does he have a sword? Does he need a sword to kill? Rather, this is metaphoric imagery. Similarly, all such expressions are metaphoric imagery. A proof of this concept, one prophet says that he saw the Holy One, blessed be he, clothed in snow white, and another envisioned him coming with crimson garments from Batsra. Moshe, our teacher himself, envisioned him at the Red Sea as a mighty man, waging war, and at Mount Sinai he saw him as the leader of a congregation, wrapped in a tallis. This shows that he has no image or form. All these are merely expressions of prophetic vision and imagery, and the truth of this concept cannot be grasped or comprehended by human thought. This is what the verse means. Can you find the comprehension of God? Can you find the ultimate bounds of the Almighty? If so, what did Moshe, our teacher, want to comprehend when he requested, "Please show me your glory"? He asked to know the truth of the existence of the Holy One, blessed be He, to the extent that it could be internalized within his mind, as one knows a particular person whose face he saw and whose image has been engraved within one's heart. Thus, this person's identity is distinguished within one's mind from that of other men. Similarly, Moshe, our teacher, asked that the existence of the Holy One, blessed be He, be distinguished in his mind from the existence of other entities, to the extent that he would know the truth of his existence as it is in its own right. God replied that it is not within the potential of a living man, a creature of body and soul, to comprehend this matter in its entirety. Nevertheless, God revealed to Moshe matters which no other man had known before him, nor would ever know afterward, until he was able to comprehend enough from the truth of his existence for the Holy One, blessed be He, to be distinguished in his mind from other entities, as a person is distinguished from other men when one sees his back and knows the structure of his body and the manner in which he is clothed. This is alluded to by the verse, "You shall see my back, but my face will not be seen." Since it has been clarified that he does not have a body or a corporeal form, it is also clear that none of the functions of the body are appropriate to him, neither connection nor separation, neither place nor measure, neither ascent nor descent, neither right nor left, neither front nor back, neither standing nor sitting. He is not found within time, so that he would possess a beginning, an end, or age. He does not change, for there is nothing that can cause him to change. The concept of death is not applicable to him, nor is that of life within the context of physical life. The concept of foolishness is not applicable to him, nor is that of wisdom in terms of human wisdom. Neither sleep nor waking, neither anger nor laughter, neither joy nor sadness, neither silence nor speech, in the human understanding of speech, are appropriate terms with which to describe him. Our sages declared, above there is no sitting or standing, separation or connection. Since this is so, all such descriptions and the like which are related in the Torah and the words of the prophets, all these are metaphors and imagery. For example, he who sits in the heavens shall laugh. They angered me with their emptiness, and as God rejoiced. With regard to all such statements, our sages said, the Torah speaks in the language of man. This is based on the rhetorical question, are they enraging me? As it states, I, God, have not changed. Now, were he at times to be enraged and at times to be happy, he would change. Rather, all these matters are found only with regard to the dark and low bodies, those who dwell in houses of clay, whose foundation is dust. In contrast, God is elevated and exalted above all this. It is a mitzvah to love and fear this glorious and awesome God, as it states, and you shall love God, your Lord, and as the verse states, fear God, your Lord. What is the path to attain love and fear of him? When a person contemplates his wondrous and great deeds and creations and appreciates his infinite wisdom that surpasses all comparison, he will immediately love, praise, and glorify him, yearning with tremendous desire to know God's great name. As David states, my soul thirsts for the Lord, for the living God. When he continues to reflect on these same matters, he will immediately recoil in awe and fear, appreciating how he is a tiny, lowly, and dark creature, standing with his flimsy, limited wisdom before he who is of perfect knowledge. As David stated, when I see your heavens, the work of your fingers, I wonder what is man that you should recall him. Based on these concepts, the Rambam will explain important principles regarding the deeds of the Master of the Worlds, to provide a foothold for a person of understanding to develop love for God. As our sages said regarding love, in this manner you will recognize he who spoke and thus brought the world into being. Everything which the Holy One, blessed be He, created within his world is divided into three categories. They include creations which are a combination of matter and form. They are constantly coming into existence and ceasing to exist. For example, the bodies of man and animals, plants, and metals. Creations which are also a combination of matter and form, but do not change from body to body and from form to form as do those in the first category. Rather, their form is permanently fixed in their matter, and they do not change as the others do. For example, the spheres and the stars which revolve in them. The matter from which they are composed differs from a simple conception of matter, and their form differs from a simple conception of form. And then creations which have form but no matter at all. For example, the angels, for the angels do not possess bodies or corporeal being, but rather are forms which are separate from each other. What is meant by the prophet's statement that they saw an angel of fire or with wings? All these are prophetic visions and parables, as it states, God your Lord is consuming fire. God is not literally fire, and the description of him in this matter is only metaphoric. Similarly, the verse states, he makes his angels as winds, so the same applies there. Since they possess no body, what separates the form of the angels from each other Their existence is not alike. Rather, each one is below the level of the other, and exists by virtue of its influence in a progression of levels, one above the other. Everything exists by virtue of the influence of the Holy One, blessed be He, and His goodness. Solomon alluded to this concept in his wisdom, saying, "Because above the one who is high there is a watcher, and there are others higher than them." The expression below the level of the other does not refer to height in a spatial sense, as one might say he is sitting higher than his colleague, but rather in regard to spiritual level. For example, when speaking about two sages, one of whom is greater than the other, we say one is above the level of the other. Similarly, a cause is referred to as above the effect it produces. The different names with which the angels are called reflect their spiritual levels. Thus they are called the holy Chayos, who are above all the others, the Ophanim, the Erelim, the Chashmalim, the Seraphim, the Malachim, the Elohim, the sons of the Elohim, the Cheruvim, the Ishim. These 10 names, which are used to refer to the angels, reflect their 10 different spiritual levels. The highest level, where there's no higher level except that of God, is that of the form called Chayos. Therefore the prophets state that they are below God's throne of glory. The 10th and lowest level is that of the form called Ishim. They are the angels who communicate with the prophets and are perceived by them in prophetic visions. Therefore they are called Ishim, literally men, because their level is close to the level of human knowledge. All of these spiritual forms are alive. They recognize and know the Creator with very immense knowledge, each of the forms according to its level and not according to its greatness. Even the highest level is unable to conceive of the true nature of the Creator as He truly is, since its intellectual capacity is too limited to know or to grasp Him. It does, however, comprehend and know more than the form which is below it. This is true regarding each and every level, including the 10th level, which is a level that also knows the Creator in a manner that surpasses the potential to know and comprehend God that's possessed by human beings who are made of body and soul. None of these levels can know the Creator as He knows Himself. All existence, aside from the Creator, from the first form down to a small mosquito in the depths of the earth, came into being from the power of His truth. Since He knows Himself and recognizes His greatness, beauty, and truth, He knows everything, and nothing is hidden from Him. The Holy One, blessed be He, recognizes His truth and knows it as it is. He does not know with a knowledge which is external to Him in the way that we know, for ourselves and our knowledge are not one. Rather, the Creator, may He be blessed, He, His knowledge, and His life are one from all sides and corners in all manners of unity. Were He to live as life is usually conceived, or know with a knowledge that is external from Him, there would be many gods, Him, His life, and His knowledge. The matter is not so. Rather, He is one from all sides and corners, in all manners of unity. Thus you could say He is the knower, He is the subject of knowledge, and He is the knowledge itself. All is one. This matter is beyond the ability of our mouths to relate, or our ears to hear, nor is there the capacity within the heart of man to grasp it in its entirety. For instance, we see with verses this concept, by the life of Pharaoh, and it states, by the life of your soul. But by God, it says, as God lives. This shows that the Creator and His life are not two, as are the lives of living beings or the lives of the angels. Thus He does not recognize and know the creations in terms of the creations as we know them, but rather He knows them in terms of Himself. Thus, since He knows Himself, He knows everything, for the existence of everything else is dependent on Him. The concepts that we have mentioned about the subject matter in these 2 chapters are like a drop from the sea when compared to what is necessary to explain this matter. The explanation of all the fundamental principles of these 2 chapters is referred to as Ma'aseh Merkava, the work of God's chariot. The sages of the early generations commanded that these matters should not be explained except to a single individual at a time. He should be a wise man who can reach understanding with his powers of knowledge. Afterwards, he is given fundamental points, and an outline of the concepts is made known to him. He is expected to continue to contemplate until he reaches understanding with his powers of knowledge and knows the ultimate meaning and depth of the concept. These concepts are extremely deep, and not every person has the knowledge necessary to appreciate them. In his wisdom, Solomon described them with the metaphor, lambs for your clothing. The Hebrew word for lamb, kevas, also has the meaning hide. Thus our sages interpreted this metaphor to mean matters which are the secrets of the world will be your clothing, meaning they will be for you alone, and you should not discuss them in public. Concerning them, the verse states, they shall be for you, and not for others with you. Similarly, the verse states, Honey and milk will be under your tongue. The sages of the earlier generations interpreted this as metaphor. Subjects that are like honey and milk should be kept under your tongue. After describing the angels, the Rambam will now describe the model of the universe and the planets according to an Aristotelian model. The spheres are called the heavens, the firmament, the habitation, and the skies. There are 9 spheres. The closest sphere is the sphere of the moon. The second sphere, which is above it, is the sphere which contains the planet Mercury. The third sphere, which is above it, contains the planet Venus. The fourth sphere contains the sun. The fifth sphere contains the planet Mars. The sixth sphere contains the planet Jupiter. The seventh sphere contains the planet Saturn. The eighth sphere contains all the stars which are seen in the sky. The ninth sphere is the sphere which revolves each day from the east to the west. It surrounds and encompasses everything. The planets and stars all appear to be in one sphere, even though one is higher than another. This is because the spheres are pure and refined, like glass or sapphire. They're totally see-through. Therefore, the stars in the eighth sphere appear lower than the first sphere. Each of the 8 spheres which contain the planets and stars are themselves divided into many spheres, one above the other, like layers of an onion. Some of these spheres revolve from the west to the east, and some revolve from east to the west, such as the 9th sphere, which revolves from the east to the west. There is no empty space between any of them. None of these spheres are light or heavy. They are neither red, black, nor any other color. Though we see them as blue, this is only our perception because of the height of the atmosphere. Similarly, they have neither taste nor smell because these phenomena are present only in matters lower than they. All these 9 spheres which surround the world are spherical, like a ball, and the earth is suspended in their midst. Some of the planets have small spheres fixed around them. These spheres do not surround the earth. Rather, a small sphere which does not surround the earth is fixed within a large sphere which does. The total number of spheres which surround the earth entirely is 18, and the number of smaller spheres which do not surround the world is 8. From the movement of the planets and the knowledge of the extent of their revolution each day and each movement, their possession either northward or southward, and their distance from the earth and closeness to it, it's possible to know the numbers of all these spheres, the manner in which they proceed, and the nature of their orbit. This is the science of calculating the seasons and astronomy. Many books about these subjects were written by the wise men of Greece. The 9th sphere, which encompasses all the others, was divided by the sages of the earlier generations into 12 sections. They gave each of these sections a name based on the shapes that appear to be formed by the stars below it, which correspond to it. These are called the mazoles, which are the constellations, called the lamb, the ox, the twins, the crab, the lion, the virgin, the scales, the scorpion, the bow, the goat, the bucket, and the fish. The 9th sphere itself has no division, nor does it possess any of these shapes or any stars. Rather, the larger stars of the constellations of the 8th sphere are seen in the shape of these forms, or in a form resembling them. These 12 forms, these constellations, corresponded to these divisions only at the time of the flood, and then they were given these names. However, at present, they've all already moved and shifted slightly, because all the stars in the 8 spheres move as the sun and the moon do. It's just that these stars move more slowly. It would take any of these stars approximately 70 years to move the same distance which the sun and the moon move in one day. Among all the stars we see are small ones, which the Earth surpasses in size, and large ones which are several times larger than the Earth. Our Earth is approximately 40 times larger than the moon, and the sun is approximately 170 times larger than the Earth. Thus the moon is approximately 1/6,800th the size of the sun. None of the other stars is as large as the sun, nor is there one as small as the planet Mercury in the 2nd sphere. All the stars and spheres possess a soul, knowledge, and intellect. They are alive, and stand in recognition of the one who spoke and thus brought the world into being. According to their size and level, each one praises and glorifies their Creator as the angels do. Just as they are aware of the Holy One, blessed be He, they are also aware of themselves and of the angels which surpass them. The knowledge of the stars and the spheres is less than the knowledge of the angels, but greater than that of men. Below the sphere of the moon, God created a type of matter which differs from the matter of the spheres. He created 4 forms for this matter, which differ from the forms of matter of the spheres. Each of these forms was fixed in a portion of this matter as it exists in its totality. The first of these forms is the form of fire. When it became connected to a portion of this matter, from the two there came into being a body of fire. The second of forms is the form of wind. When it became connected to a portion of this matter, from the two there came into being a body of wind. The third of these forms is the form of water. When it became connected to a portion of this matter, from the two there came into being a body of water. The fourth of these forms is the form of earth. When it became connected to a portion of this matter, from the two there came into being a body of earth. Thus, below the sky there are 4 different states of matter, one above the other, each one encompassing the one below it from all directions, like a sphere. The first of these bodies, which is closest to the sphere of the moon, is that of fire. Below it is the body of wind, below it is the body of water, and below it is the body of earth. There is no empty, matterless space between them all. These 4 bodies do not possess a soul, nor are they conscious or knowing. Rather, they are like dead bodies. Each one has its inclinations, however, it is not conscious nor knowledgeable of these inclinations, nor can it change them. David's statement, "Praise God from the earth, sea monsters and all the depths, fire and hail, snow and vapor," does not contradict the above statement. That verse should be interpreted, "Men should praise God for his mightiness, which is apparent in the fire, hail, and other creations that can be seen below the sky, because their power is always visible to both the great and the small." After explaining the nature of the angels and the celestial bodies, the Rambam will now explain the nature of physical matter. These 4 bodies, fire, wind, water, and earth, are the fundamental elements of all the creations below the sky. Everything that exists, be it man, animal, fowl, crawling creature, fish, plant, metal, precious stone, pearl, building stone, mountain, or clump of earth, the body of all these entities is a combination of these 4 fundamental elements. Thus, all the bodies which are found below the sky, with the exception of these 4 bodies themselves, are a combination of matter and form, with the matter being comprised of a combination of these 4 fundamental elements. The tendency of fire and wind is to ascend upwards from the depths of the earth towards the sky, while the tendency of water and earth is to descend from the sky to the midpoint of the sky, meaning to the center of the earth. For the midpoint of the sky is the lowest point, nothing is lower than this. These tendencies are not a conscious matter, nor are they willful, rather it's just a pattern implanted within them and a nature that they were given. The natural characteristics of fire are that it's warm and dry. It's the lightest of all these fundamental elements. Wind is warm and moist, water is cold and moist, and earth is dry and cold. It is the heaviest of all these fundamental elements. Water is lighter than earth, therefore it's found above it. Wind is lighter than water, so it's above it, and fire is lighter than wind. Since these 4 are the fundamental elements for all the bodies below the sky, the matter of every single body, man, animal, fowl, fish, plant, metal, and stone is a combination of these 4, fire, wind, water, and earth. In the process of the combination of these 4, each one of them changes while they're being combined. So the combination of the 4 fundamental elements does not resemble any one of the single elements as it exists alone. Similarly, in any combination of them, there cannot be found even one portion of fire as it exists alone, wind as it exists alone, or water as it exists alone, or earth as it exists alone. Rather, they have all changed and become a single body. Each and every body which is a combination of these 4 fundamental elements will have a combination of cold and warmth, moistness, and dryness. There are some bodies which have a more powerful concentration of the fundamental element of fire, for example, creatures with living souls. Accordingly, they have a higher temperature. Conversely, there are some bodies with a more powerful concentration of the element of earth, for example, the stones. Accordingly, they are very dry. Similarly, some of them have bodies with a greater concentration of the element of water. Accordingly, they are moist. In this manner, one may find one body which is warmer than another body, which is itself warm, and one body that's drier than another body, which is itself dry. Similarly, there are bodies in which cold alone is noticeable, and other bodies in which moistness alone is noticeable. In some bodies, cold and dryness are equally noticeable. In others, cold and moistness are equally noticeable. In others, warmth and dryness are equally noticeable. And in others, warmth and moistness are equally noticeable. According to the predominance of the element that is found in the essential combination, the inclination and nature of that element will be expressed in the body more thoroughly than the others. Every entity which is a combination of these 4 fundamental elements will ultimately decompose back into these elements. Some will decompose after a mere few days, and others will decompose after many years. However, it is impossible for everything which is a combination of these elements not to decompose back into them. It is impossible even for gold or a ruby not to decompose and return to their fundamental elements. A portion will return to fire, a portion to water, a portion to wind, and a portion to earth. As every entity will decompose and separate into these 4 fundamental elements, then why was Adam told you will return to dust? So that's because the majority of man's composition is from dust. Every entity that decomposes will not return to the 4 fundamental elements immediately. Rather, it will decompose and change into another entity, and that entity will in turn change into another entity, which will eventually in turn return to the 4 base elements. Thus, all entities are constantly returning to their elemental state in a cycle. These four fundamental elements are in a constant state of flux, with a certain portion, but never the entire matter, of one changing into another every day and every hour. This means a portion of the earth which is close to the water changes, dissolves, and becomes water. Similarly, a portion of the water which is close to the wind changes, evaporates, and becomes wind. A portion of the wind which is close to the fire changes, undergoes a metamorphosis, and becomes fire. Similarly, a portion of the fire close to the wind goes through a metamorphosis, changes, contracts, and becomes wind. The wind which is close to the water changes and becomes water, and the water which is close to the earth changes and becomes earth. This cycle of change proceeds little by little over the course of time. The entire fundamental element will never change. For example, all the water will never fully become wind, and all the wind will never fully become fire, because it's impossible for the existence of one of the four fundamental elements to be totally nullified. Rather, a portion of the fire will change to wind, and a portion of the wind to fire. Similarly, between each pair of these four, change will go on in an unceasing, recurrent cycle. This cycle of change is caused by the revolution of the sphere. Its revolution causes the four fundamental elements to combine, and thus forms the matter of men, living animals, plants, stones, and metals. God gives each body the form appropriate to it through the angels of the 10th level, which are the form called Ishim. You will never see matter without form, or form without matter. It is the heart of man which has knowledge, that considers the bodies, and knows that they're a combination of matter and form. It appreciates that there are bodies whose matter is a combination of the four fundamental elements, bodies whose matter is simple and contains only one type of matter, and forms which have no matter and cannot be seen by the eye. The latter are discernible only to the eye of the heart. We can appreciate their existence just as we know of the existence of God, though we do not see him with our eyes. The soul is the form which is given by God. The extra dimension which is found in the soul of man is the form of man which is perfect in its knowledge. Concerning this form, the Torah states, "Let us make man in our image and in our likeness," meaning a person is granted a form which knows and comprehends ideas that are abstract, like the angels who are form without body, until he can resemble them. This does not refer to the form of the body that's perceived by the eyes, for example the mouth, the nose, the face, or the rest of the body. This also doesn't refer to the soul found in a person which allows it to eat, drink, reproduce, feel, and think. Rather, knowledge is the form of this dimension of the soul, and it is concerning this form of the soul that the verse states, "in our image and in our likeness." Frequently this form is referred to as nefesh or ruach. Therefore one must be careful regarding these names lest another person err regarding them. Each name reveals its characteristics. The form of this soul is not a combination of the fundamental elements into which it will ultimately decompose, nor does it come from the neshama, another part of the soul, so that it would require the neshama, as the neshama requires the body. Rather, it is from God, from heaven. Therefore, when the matter of the body, which is a combination of the four fundamental elements, decomposes and the neshama ceases to exist, for the neshama exists only with the body and requires the body for its actions, this form will not be cut off. For this form does not require the neshama for its deeds. Rather, it knows and comprehends knowledge, which is above matter. It knows the creator of all things and exists forever. In his wisdom, Solomon said the following about it: "The dust will return to the earth as it originally was, and the ruach will return to God who granted it." All these concepts which we have explained in this context are like a drop in a bucket. They are deep matters. Nevertheless, their depth does not approach the depth of the subject matter of the first and second chapters. The explanation of all the subject matter in the third and fourth chapters is referred to as Bereishit, the work of creation. The sages of the early generations commanded that these matters should not be expounded upon in public. Rather, one by one, individuals should be informed about them and taught them. What's the difference between the subject matter of Merkava from the first two chapters and the subject matter of Bereishit from chapters 3 and 4? The subject matter of Merkava should never be expounded upon, even to a single individual, unless he is wise and capable of understanding, in which instance he is given fundamental points. In contrast, the subject matter of Bereishit may be taught to an individual, even though he is incapable of comprehending it with his powers of understanding alone. He may be informed about everything that he can possibly know about these matters. Why are they not taught publicly? And that's because not every person has the vast knowledge necessary to grasp the interpretation and the explanation of these matters in a complete manner. When a person meditates on these matters and recognizes all the creations, the angels, the spheres, man, and the like, and appreciates the wisdom of the Holy One, blessed be He, in all these creations, he will add to his love for God. His soul will thirst and his flesh will long with love for God, blessed be He. He will stand in awe and fear from his humble, lowly, and base nature when he compares himself to one of the great and holy bodies, how much more so when comparing himself to the pure forms which are separate from matter and do not share any connection with it. He will see himself as a vessel full of embarrassment and shame, empty and lacking. The matters discussed in these 4 chapters concerning these 5 mitzvahs are what the sages of the early generations termed the paradis, the orchard, for they related 4 entered the paradis. Even though they were great men of Israel and great sages, not all of them had the potential to know and comprehend all these matters in their totality. The Rambam maintains that it is not proper for a person to stroll in the paradis unless he has filled his stomach with bread and meat. Bread and meat refer to the knowledge of what is permitted and what is forbidden, and similar matters concerning other mitzvahs, just the basic halachos. Even though the sages refer to these basic halachos as a small matter, for our sages said, a great matter, this refers to Ma'aseh Merkava, a small matter, this refers to the debates of Abaya and Rava. Nevertheless, it is fitting for them to be given precedence because they settle a person's mind. Also, they are the great good which the Holy One, blessed be He, has granted to allow for stable living within this world and the acquisition of the life of the world to come. They can be known in their totality by the great and the small, man or woman, whether they have been granted expansive knowledge or limited knowledge. The entire house of Israel are commanded regarding the sanctification of God's great name, as it states, "And I shall be sanctified amidst the children of Israel." Also, they are warned against desecrating his holy name, as the above verse states, "And they shall not desecrate my holy name." What is implied? Should a non-Jewish person arise and force a Jew to violate one of the Torah's commandments at the pain of death, he should violate the commandment rather than be killed, because it states, concerning the mitzvahs which a man will perform and live by them. The mitzvahs were given so that one may live by them and not die because of them. If a person died rather than transgress, he is held accountable for his life. Now, that applies to most mitzvahs, but there are 3 exceptions. With the 3 commandments against worshipping another god, forbidden sexual relations, and murder, with these 3 sins, if one is ordered to transgress one of them or be killed, one should sacrifice his life rather than transgress. This applies when the person forcing him to violate these commandments desires that he do so for his own personal benefit. For example, he forces a person to build a house or cook food for him on the Shabbos, or he assaults a woman, or the like. However, if his intention is just simply to have the person violate a mitzvah specifically, there are more severe rules. If the Jew is alone and 10 Jewish people are not present, he should transgress and not sacrifice his life, as mentioned. However, if the person forces him to transgress with the intention that he violate a mitzvah in the presence of 10 Jewish people, he should sacrifice his life and not transgress for any commandment. This applies even if the person intended that he violate only one of the Torah's mitzvahs. All the above distinctions apply only in times other than times of a harsh decree against the Jewish people and their practice. However, in times of such a decree, for example, during the time of the king Nebuchadnezzar, or his like, that they arise and issue a decree against the Jewish people to nullify their faith or one of the mitzvahs, one should sacrifice one's life rather than transgress any of the other mitzvahs, whether one is compelled to transgress amidst 10 Jewish people or one is compelled to transgress amidst non-Jewish people. If somebody is in a circumstance where they're supposed to commit a sin and not sacrifice their life, and they sacrifice their life to not commit the sin, they are held accountable for their life. When anybody about whom it is said, give up your life and don't transgress, gives up his life and does not transgress, he sanctifies God's name. If he does so in the presence of 10 Jewish people, he sanctifies God's name in public, like Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, Azariah, and Rabbi Akiva and his colleagues did. These are those slain by the wicked kingdom, above whom there is no higher level. Concerning them, the verse states, "For your sake we have been slain all day, we are viewed as sheep for the slaughter." And it states, "Gather unto me, my pious ones, those who have made a covenant with me by slaughter." When anyone about whom it is said, sacrifice their life and do not transgresses instead of sacrificing his life, he desecrates God's name. If he does so in the presence of 10 Jewish people, he desecrates God's name in public and nullifies the fulfillment of the positive commandment of the sanctification of God's name and violates the negative commandment against the desecration of God's name. Nevertheless, since he was forced to transgress, he would not be liable for lashes, and needless to say, would not be executed by the court, even if he was forced to kill another person. The punishments of lashes and execution are administered only to somebody who transgresses voluntarily, when the transgression is observed by witnesses, and when a warning was given prior, as the verse states concerning one who gives his children to the worship of the idol Moloch, "If I will turn my face against that person." Our tradition teaches that we can infer that person, and not one who is forced to transgress. One who transgresses inadvertently or one who transgresses because of an error. If, concerning the worship of false gods, which is the most serious of sins, a person who is forced to worship is not liable for karais, divine punishment, nor, needless to say, execution by the court, then how much more so this would apply by all the other mitzvahs of the Torah, that one who is forced to is not liable for any court punishment. For example, regarding forbidden sexual relations, the verse states, "Do not do anything to the maiden." One who could, however, escape and flee from under the power of this wicked king and fails to do so is, as the verse states, like a dog who returns to lick his vomit. He is considered as one who worships false gods willingly. He will be prevented from reaching the world to come and will descend to the lowest levels of Gehenna. If a non-Jewish person tells a group of women, "Give us one of you to defile, if not, we will defile all of you," they should allow themselves all to be defiled rather than give over a single Jewish soul to such people. Similarly, if they tell a group of Jewish people, "Give us one of you to kill, if not, we will kill all of you," they should allow themselves all to be killed rather than give over a single soul to them. However, if they single out a specific individual and say, "Give us this person or we will kill all of you," there are different rules. If the person is obligated to die, for example, like Sheva ben Bichri, who rebelled against King David, they may give him over to them. Initially, however, this instruction is not conveyed to them. If he is not obligated to die, they should allow themselves all to be killed rather than give over a single soul to such people. Just as these principles apply regarding being forced to transgress, they also apply regarding sicknesses. This means, when a person becomes sick and is in danger of dying, if the physicians say that his cure involves transgressing a given Torah prohibition, the physician's advice should be followed and the prohibition should be transgressed. When there is a danger to life, one may use any of the Torah prohibitions as a remedy, with the exception of the worship of false gods, forbidden sexual relations, and murder. Even when there is a danger to life, one may not use those three as a remedy. If one transgresses and does use them as a remedy, the court should impose the appropriate punishment upon him. What is the source which teaches that even when there is a danger to life, these three sins should not be violated? The verse states, "And you shall love God your Lord with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might." The words "with all your soul" imply even if one takes your soul. With regard to the killing of a Jewish person to heal another person or to save a person from one who is compelling him, it is logical that one person's life should not be sacrificed for another. And the Torah has established an equation between forbidden sexual relations and murder. As the verse states, this matter is just like a case where a person rises up against his colleague and slays him. So we see from this that it's better that a person give up his life than to kill an innocent person or to engage in forbidden sexual relations. When it was stated that one may be healed using matters that are prohibited in the Torah only when one's life is in danger, this applies when one uses them in a way which affords satisfaction to himself. For example, when one feeds a sick person insects or creeping animals, or chametz on Passover, or when one is fed on the fast day of Yom Kippur. When, however, the prohibited substances are used in a way that does not grant the person any satisfaction, for example, when one makes a bandage or similar out of chametz on Passover, or from orla, which are forbidden plants, or when one is given bitter-tasting substances mixed with forbidden food to drink, since the person derives no satisfaction from them, they're permitted to be used even when no danger to life is involved. The exceptions to this leniency are forbidden agricultural plant mixtures and forbidden mixtures of milk and meat. Deriving benefit from these is forbidden even in a way that does not offer satisfaction. Therefore, they may not be used as a remedy even in a manner which does not grant satisfaction, except when there is an actual danger to life. When somebody becomes attracted to a woman and is lovesick to the extent that he is in danger of dying, although the physicians say that he has no remedy except engaging in intimacy with her, he should be allowed to die rather than engage in intimacy with her. This applies even if she is unmarried. He is even not to be given instructions to speak to her in private behind the fence. Rather, he should die rather than do such. These restrictions were instituted so that Jewish women would not be regarded capriciously and to prevent these matters from ultimately leading to promiscuity. Whoever consciously transgresses one of the mitzvahs related in the Torah without being forced to, in a spirit of derision to arouse divine anger, he desecrates God's name. Therefore, the verse states, regarding taking an oath in vain, "For you are desecrating the name of your Lord, I am God." If he transgresses amidst 10 Jewish people, he desecrates God's name in public. Conversely, anybody who refrains from committing a sin or performs a mitzvah for no ulterior motive, neither out of fear or dread, nor to seek honor, but simply for the sake of the Creator, blessed be he, as Joseph held himself back from his master's wife, he sanctifies God's name. There are other deeds which are also included in the category of the desecration of God's name if performed by a person of great Torah stature who is renowned for his piety. For example, deeds which, although they are not transgressions, they will cause people to speak disparagingly of him. This also constitutes the desecration of God's name. For example, a person who purchases merchandise and does not pay for it immediately, although he possesses the money, and thus the sellers demand payment and he pushes them off. For example, a person who jests immoderately, or one who eats and drinks near or among the common people, or whose conduct with other people is not gentle, and he does not receive them with a favorable countenance, but rather contests with them and vents his anger and the like. Everything depends on the stature of the sage. The extent to which he must be careful with himself and go beyond the measure of the law depends on the level of his stature. The converse is also true. When a sage is stringent with himself, speaks pleasantly with others, his social conduct is attractive to others, he receives them pleasantly, he is humbled by them and does not humble them in return, he honors them even though they act disrespectfully to him, he does business faithfully and does not frequently accept the hospitality of the common people or sit with them, and at all times is seen only studying Torah, wrapped in tzitzis, crowned with tefillin, and carrying out all his deeds beyond the measure of the law, provided he does not separate too far from normal living and thus become forlorn. To the extent that all praise him, love him, and find his deeds attractive, such a person sanctifies God's name. The verse states, "And he said to me, Israel, you are my servant, in whom I will be glorified." This refers to such an individual. Whoever destroys or erases one of the holy and pure names with which the Holy One, blessed be He, is called, is liable for lashes, according to scriptural law. The prohibition is derived as follows. With regard to the worship of false gods, it states, "And you shall destroy their names from this place. Do not do this, to God your Lord." There are 7 names for God. The name which is written Yod K Vav K. This is referred to as God's explicit name and is also written Aleph, Daled, Nun, and Yod. The name Kel, the name Eloka, the name Elokim, the name Elokeh, the name Shakai, the name Tivakos. Whoever erases even one letter from any of these 7 names is liable for lashes. All the letters which are connected to God's name but are placed before the name itself as a prefix can be erased. For example, the Lamed of Lamed, Aleph, Dalet, Nun, Yod, or the Bet of Be Elokim, and the like. They do not possess the same degree of holiness as God's name itself. All the letters which are connected to God's name but placed after the name as a suffix, for example, the final chaf of Elokecha, or the chaf and the final mem of Elokechem, and the like, may not be erased. They are considered like the other letters of God's name, because the name conveys holiness upon them. Although holiness is conveyed upon them, and it is forbidden to erase them, nevertheless a person who erases these letters, which are connected to God's name, is not liable for lashes. However, he does receive lashes for rebellious conduct, or makas mardus. If one writes the Aleph and the Lamed of the name Elokim, or the Yud and the Hey of the name Yud K Vav K, these letters may not be erased. Needless to say, the name Yud K may not be erased. It is considered as a name in its own right because it is part of God's explicit name. However, if one writes the Shin and the Daled of the name Shakai, or the Tzadik and the Bet of the name Tzivakot, these letters can be erased. Other descriptive terms which are used to praise the Holy One, blessed be He, for example, the gracious, the merciful, the mighty, the awesome, the faithful, the jealous, the powerful, and the like, are considered as other holy texts, but may be erased. When God's name is written on a utensil, one should cut off God's name and bury it. Even when God's name is engraved on a metal or glass utensil and one melts the utensil, one is liable for lashes. Instead, one should cut off God's name and bury it. Similarly, if God's name was written on one's flesh, one should not wash or anoint oneself, nor may one stand in a place of filth. If it occurs that such a person must immerse in a mikveh because of a mitzvah, he should wind reeds around the name and then immerse himself. If he cannot find the reeds, he should wind his clothes around it, but should not wind them tightly so that they will not become an intervening substance in the mikveh. This is acceptable because the reason he is required to wind reeds around it is only because it is forbidden to stand before God's name when naked. A person who removes even one stone from the altar, the temple building, or the temple courtyard with a destructive intent is liable for lashes. The prohibition is derived as follows with regard to the worship of false gods. The verse states, "And you shall tear down their altars," and the following verse continues, "Do not do this, to God your Lord." Similarly, a person who burns wood belonging to the temple with a destructive intent is liable for lashes. The prohibition is derived as follows with regard to the worship of false gods. The verse states, "And you shall burn their asherot with fire," and the following verse continues, "Do not do this, to God your Lord." It is forbidden to burn or to destroy by direct action any sacred texts, their commentaries, and their explanations. A person who destroys them by his direct action is given lashes for rebellious conduct. To what does the above apply? To a sacred text written by a Jew with a sacred intent. However, should a Jewish heretic write a Torah scroll, it and the name of God it contains must be burnt, since he does not believe in the sanctity of God's name, and he did not compose it for this purpose. Rather, he considers this to be similar to any other ordinary text. Since this is his intent, the names of God he writes do not become holy. It is a mitzvah to burn it so that no remembrance will be left of the heretics or their deeds. In contrast, if a non-Jewish person writes God's name, it should be buried. Similarly, sacred texts that have become worn out or which were written by non-Jewish people should be buried. All the names of God written in the passage concerning Abraham and the angels are sacred. Even the name of God in the verse, "My Lord, if I have found favor in your eyes," is also sacred. All the names of God written in the passage concerning Lot are not sacred, except the verse, "And Lot said to them, O God, no, I have found favor in your eyes, and you have saved my life." All the names of God written in the passage concerning the hill of Binyamin are sacred. All the names of God written in the passage concerning Micha are not sacred. All the names written in the passage concerning Navot are sacred. Every mention of the name Shlomo in the Song of Songs is sacred, with the exception of "You, Shlomo, may have the 1,000. Every mention of the word king in the book of Daniel is not sacred, except "You are the King of Kings." Its status is like other descriptive terms for God. It is one of the foundations of our faith that God communicates by prophecy with man. Prophecy is bestowed only upon a very wise sage of a strong character, who is never overcome by his natural inclinations in any regard. Instead, with his mind, he overcomes his natural inclinations at all times. He must also possess a broad and correct mental outlook. A person who is full of all these qualities and is physically sound is fit for prophecy. When he enters the Pardes, the orchard as described in earlier chapters, and is drawn into these great and sublime concepts, if he possesses a correct outlook to comprehend and grasp them, he will become holy. He will advance and separate himself from the masses who proceed in the darkness of the time. He must continue and diligently train himself not to have any thoughts whatsoever about fruitless things or the vanities and intrigues of the times. Instead, his mind should constantly be directed upward, bound beneath God's throne of glory, striving to comprehend the holy and pure forms, and gazing at the wisdom of the Holy One, blessed be He, in its entirety, from the most elevated spiritual form until the navel of the earth, appreciating His greatness from them. After these preparations, the spirit of prophecy will immediately rest upon him. When the spirit rests upon him, his soul becomes intermingled with the angels called Ishim, and he will be transformed into a different person and will understand with a knowledge different from what it was previously. He will rise above the level of other wise men, as the prophet Samuel told Saul, "The Spirit of God will descend upon you, and you shall prophesy with them, and you will be transformed into a different person." There are a number of levels among the prophets. Just as with regard to wisdom, one sage is greater than his colleague, so too with regard to prophecy, one prophet is greater than another. They all, however, share certain commonalities. They receive prophetic vision only in a visionary dream or during the day after slumber has overtaken them. As the verse states, "I make myself known to him in a vision, I speak to him in a dream." When any of them do prophecy, their limbs tremble, their physical powers become weak, they lose control of their senses, and thus their minds are free to comprehend what they see, as the verse states concerning Abraham, and a great dark dread fell over him. Similarly, by Daniel, it states, "My appearance was horribly changed, and I retained no strength." When a prophet is informed of a message in a vision, it is granted to him in metaphoric imagery. Immediately, the interpretation of the imagery is imprinted upon his heart, and he does know its meaning. For example, the ladder, with the angels ascending and descending envisioned by the patriarch Yaakov, was an allegory for the empires and their subjugation of his descendants. Similarly, the creatures Ezekiel saw, the boiling pot and the rod from the almond tree envisioned by Jeremiah, the scroll Ezekiel saw, and the measure seen by Zechariah, these were all metaphoric images. Similarly, some of the prophets would relate the allegory and its explanation, others would relate only the explanation. At times, they would relate only the imagery without explaining it, as can be seen in some of the prophecies of Ezekiel and Zechariah. All of the prophecies come in the form of metaphoric imagery and allegories. All the prophets do not prophesy whenever they desire. Instead, they must concentrate their attention upon spiritual concepts and seclude themselves, waiting in a happy, joyous mood, because prophecy cannot rest upon a person when he is sad or languid, but only when he is happy. Therefore, the prophet's disciples would always have a harp, drum, flute, and lyre before them when they were seeking prophecy. This is what is meant by the expression, "they were prophesying," meaning they were following the path of prophecy until they would actually prophesy. As one might say, such a person aspires to greatness. Those who aspire to prophecy are called the disciples of the prophets. Even though they concentrate their attention, it is possible that the divine presence will rest upon them, and it is possible that it will not rest upon them. All the statements made above describe the path of prophecy of all the early and late prophets, with the exception of Moshe, our teacher, the master of all prophets. The difference between Moshe's prophecy and that of all the other prophets was that divine insight is bestowed upon all the other prophets in a dream or a vision. Moshe, our teacher, would prophesy while awake and standing. As the verse states, when Moshe came into the tent of meeting to speak to him, he heard the voice speaking to him. Divine insight is bestowed upon all the other prophets through the medium of an angel. Therefore they perceive only metaphoric imagery and allegories. Moshe, our teacher, would prophesy without the medium of an angel. As the verse states, mouth to mouth I speak to him. And the verse states, and God spoke to Moshe face to face. And it states, he gazed upon the image of God. There was no metaphor. Rather, he would perceive the matter in its fullness without metaphor or allegory. The Torah testifies concerning him, I speak to him manifestly without allegory. His appreciation of prophecy would not be through metaphor, but through open revelation, appreciating the matter in its fullness. All the other prophets are overawed, terrified, and confounded by the revelations they experience. But Moshe, our teacher, would not respond in this manner. As the verse states, God spoke to Moshe as a man speaks to a friend, meaning just as a person will not be awestruck from hearing his friend's words, so too Moshe's mental power was sufficient to comprehend the words of prophecy while he was standing in a composed state. All the other prophets cannot prophesy whenever they desire. Moshe, our teacher, was different. Whenever he desired, the Holy Spirit would envelop him and prophecy would rest upon him. He did not have to concentrate his attention to prepare himself for prophecy, because his mind was always concentrated, prepared, and ready to appreciate spiritual truth as the angels are. Therefore he would prophesy at all times, as the verse states, stand and hear what God will command you. He was promised this by God, as implied, go and tell them, return to your tents, but you stand here together with me. This should be interpreted to mean, when prophecy departs from all the other prophets, they return to their tents, meaning the needs of their body, like other people. Therefore they do not separate themselves from their wives. Moshe, our teacher, never returned to his original tent. Therefore he separated himself from woman and everything of that nature forever. He bound his mind to the eternal rock. Accordingly, the glory never left him. The flesh of his countenance shone, for he became holy like the angels. There is the possibility that a prophet will experience prophecy for his own sake alone, for example, to broaden his outlook and to increase his knowledge, allowing him to know more about the lofty concepts than he knew before. It is also possible that he will be sent to one of the nations of the world, or to the inhabitants of a particular city or kingdom, to prepare them and to inform them what they should do, or to prevent them from continuing the evil which they are doing. When he is sent on such a mission, he is given a sign or a wonder to perform, so that the people will know that God has truly sent him. Not everybody who performs signs or wonders should be accepted as a prophet. Only a person who is known to be fit for prophecy beforehand, meaning his wisdom and his good deeds surpass those of all his contemporaries. If he follows the paths of prophecy and holiness, separating himself from worldly matters, and afterwards performs a sign or wonder and states that he was sent by God, it is a mitzvah to listen to him, as the verse states, listen to him. It is possible that a person will perform a sign or wonder even though he is not a prophet, rather the wonder will have another cause behind it. Nevertheless, it is a mitzvah to listen to him. Since he is a wise man of stature and fit for prophecy, we accept his prophecy as true. This is the nature of the Torah's commandment to heed a prophet. To give an example, we are commanded to render a legal judgment based on the testimony of two witnesses. Even though they may testify falsely, since we know them to be acceptable as witnesses, we presume that they are telling the truth. Considering these matters and the like, the verse states, the hidden matters are for God, our Lord, but what is revealed is for us and our children. And the verse states, man sees what is revealed to the eyes, but God sees into the heart. The Jewish people did not believe in Moshe, our teacher, because of the wonders that he performed. For whenever anybody's belief is based on wonders, he has misgivings, because it's possible to perform a wonder through magic or sorcery. All the wonders performed by Moshe in the desert were not intended to serve as proof of the legitimacy of his prophecy, but rather were performed for a purpose. It was necessary to drown the Egyptians, so he split the sea and sank them in it. We needed food, so he provided us with the mun. We were thirsty, so he split the rock, giving us water. Korach's company rebelled against Moshe, so the earth swallowed them up. The same applies to the other wonders. So the source for our belief in Moshe was the revelation at Mount Sinai. Our eyes saw, and not a stranger's. Our ears heard, and not another's. There was fire, thunder, and lightning. He entered the thick clouds, the voice spoke to him, and we heard, Moshe, Moshe, go tell them the following. Thus, the verse relates, face to face, God spoke to you, and the verse states, God did not make this covenant with our fathers, but with us, who are all here alive today. It's known that the revelation at Mount Sinai alone is proof of the truth of Moshe's prophecy, to the extent that it leaves no apprehension, as it states, "Behold, I will come to you in a thick cloud, so that the people will hear me speaking to you, so that they will believe in you forever." It appears that before this happened, they did not believe in him with a faith that would last forever, but rather with a faith that allowed for suspicions and doubts. Thus, those to whom Moshe was sent witnessed his appointment as a prophet, and it was not necessary to perform another wonder for them. He and they were like two witnesses who observed the same event together. Each one serves as a witness to tell his colleague that he is telling the truth, and neither has to bring any other proof to his colleague. Similarly, all Israel were witnesses to the appointment of Moshe, our teacher, at the revelation of Mount Sinai, and it was unnecessary for him to perform any further wonders for them. This concept is alluded to in the interchange between God and Moshe at the revelation of the burning bush. At the beginning of his prophecy, the Holy One, blessed be He, gave him the wonders to perform in Egypt, and told him, "And they will listen to your voice." Moshe, our teacher, knew that one who believes in another person because of signs has apprehension in his heart, and that he has doubts and suspicions. Therefore he sought to be released from the mission, saying, "They will not believe me," until the Holy One, blessed be He, informed him that these wonders were intended only as a temporary measure, until they left Egypt. After they would depart, they would stand on this mountain, and all doubts which they had about him would be removed. God told him, "Here I will give you a sign, so that they will know that I truly sent you from the outset, and thus no doubts will remain in their hearts." This is what is meant by the verse, "This will be your sign that I sent you. When you take the people out of Egypt, you will serve God on this mountain." Thus, we do not believe in any prophet who arises after Moshe, our teacher, because of the wonder he performs alone, as if to say, if he performs a wonder, we will listen to everything he says. Rather, we believe him because it's a mitzvah which we were commanded by Moshe, who said, "If he performs a wonder, listen to him." Just as we are commanded to render a legal judgment based on the testimony of two witnesses, even though we do not know if they are testifying truthfully or falsely, similarly it's a mitzvah to listen to this prophet, even though we do not know whether the wonder is true or performed by magic or sorcery. Therefore, if a prophet arises and attempts to dispute Moshe's prophecy by performing great signs and wonders, we should not listen to him. We know with certainty that he performed those signs through magic or sorcery. This conclusion is reached because the prophecy of Moshe, our teacher, is not dependent on wonders, so that we could compare these wonders one against the other. Rather, we saw and heard with our own eyes and ears as he did. This is comparable to witnesses who give false testimony concerning a matter to a man who had observed the situation with his own eyes. He will never listen to them and will know for certain that they are false witnesses. Therefore, the Torah states that even if such a sign or wonder will come, you should not listen to the words of that prophet. He comes to you with signs and wonders to deny what you saw with your own eyes. We believe in a wonder as evidence of a prophet's reliability only because of the mitzvah which Moshe commanded us. Therefore, how can a wonder cause us to accept this person who comes to deny the prophecy of Moshe, which we saw and heard? It is clear and explicit in the Torah that the Torah is God's commandment remaining forever, without change, addition, or subtraction. As the verse states, "All these matters which I command to you, you shall be careful to perform. You may not add to it or subtract from it." And the verse states, "What is revealed is for us and our children forever, to carry out all the words of this Torah." This teaches that we are commanded to fulfill all the Torah's directives forever. It is also said, "It is an everlasting statute for all your generations," and it states, "It is not in the heavens." This teaches that a prophet can no longer add a new precept to the Torah. Therefore, if a person will arise, whether he's Jewish or non-Jewish, and perform a sign or wonder and say that God sent him to either add a mitzvah, subtract a mitzvah, to explain a mitzvah in a manner which differs from the tradition received from Moshe, or if he says that the mitzvahs commanded to the Jewish people are not forever, but rather were given for a limited time, he is a false prophet. He comes to deny the prophecy of Moshe and should be executed by strangulation because he dared to make statements in God's name which God never made. God, blessed be his name, commanded Moshe that this commandment is for us and our children forever, and God is not man that he speak falsely. So, to explain the verse, "I will appoint a prophet from among their brethren like you, and I will place my words in his mouth, and he will speak." The role of such a prophet is not to establish a new faith, but rather to command the people to fulfill the precepts of the Torah and to warn against its transgression, as evidenced by the final prophet Malachi, who proclaimed, "Remember the Torah of Moshe my servant." Also, a prophet may command us to do something which is neither permitted nor forbidden by Torah law. For example, go to such a place, or do not go to such a place, or wage war, or do not wage war, or build a wall, or do not build a wall. In these instances, it is a mitzvah to listen to him, even though it doesn't involve something permitted or forbidden by Torah law. Anybody who violates the prophet's directives is worthy of death at the hands of God, as the verse states, "And a person who will not heed my words which he speaks in my name, I will seek retribution from him." Similarly, a prophet who violated his own prophetic instructions and one who refrains from prophesying are worthy of death at the hand of God, since concerning the three of them it is said, I will seek retribution from him. When a prophet who has already proven himself to be a prophet instructs us to violate one of the mitzvahs of the Torah, or many mitzvahs, whether they be of a severe or light nature, for a limited amount of time, then it is a mitzvah to listen to him. The sages of the early generations taught us, part of the oral tradition, if a prophet tells you to violate the precepts of the Torah, as Eliyahu did on Mount Carmel, listen to him with regard to all things except for the worship of false gods. This specifically applies when his command is temporary in nature. For example, on Mount Carmel, Elijah offered a sacrifice outside the temple's premises, even though Jerusalem was chosen for such service, and one who offers a sacrifice outside the temple's premises is liable for kares, divine punishment, as it's forbidden. Since he was already established as a prophet, it was there a mitzvah to listen to him. The commandment, listen to him, applies in these circumstances as well. If they would have asked Elijah, how can we violate the Torah's commandments? As it says, be careful lest you offer your burnt offerings everywhere, he would have told them, it was only stated that anybody who perpetually offers a sacrifice outside the temple premises is liable for these punishments, as Moshe said. The present instance, however, is an exception. He's offering a sacrifice today outside the temple at God's command in order to disprove the prophets of Baal, as seen in that case. Similarly, if any other prophet commands us to transgress for a limited time, then it's a mitzvah to listen to him. If, however, he says that the mitzvah has been nullified forever, then he's worthy of execution by strangulation, for the Torah has told us it is for us and our children forever. Similarly, if a false prophet nullifies a concept which was transmitted by the oral tradition, or he states with regard to one of the Torah's laws that God commanded him to render such and such a judgment, or that such and such is the law regarding a particular instance and the decision follows a certain opinion, meaning he claims he was told the correct law through prophetic insight as opposed to the standard processes of Torah deduction, he is a false prophet and should be executed by strangulation. This applies even if he performs a wonder, for he is coming to deny the Torah, of which it is stated it is not in the heavens. If, however, he states that for a limited time we should follow a particular course of behavior, he should be listened to with regard to all things. This applies with regard to all other mitzvahs. Regarding specifically the worship of false gods, a prophet should not be listened to even for a limited time. Even if he performs great wonders and miracles and says that God commanded him to worship false gods only on this day or only during this hour, he is considered to have spoken perversely against God. Concerning this, the Torah has commanded us, if a sign or a miracle is performed, and he tells you, let us serve other gods, do not listen to the words of this prophet, for he has spoken perversely against God your Lord. He is coming to deny the prophecy of Moshe. Therefore, we may definitely conclude that he is a false prophet, and everything he did was performed through sorcery and magic. Hence, he should be executed by strangulation. Any prophet who arises and tells us that God has sent him does not have to prove himself by performing wonders like those performed by Moshe our teacher, or like the wonders of Elijah or Elisha which altered the natural order. Rather, the sign of the truth of his prophecy will be the fulfillment of his prediction of future events, as implied by the verse, how shall we recognize that a prophecy was not spoken by God? Therefore, if a person whose progress in the service of God makes him fit for a prophecy, and such a person arises and claims to be a prophet, if he does not intend to add to or diminish the Torah, but rather to serve God through the mitzvahs of the Torah, we do not tell him, split the sea for us, or revive the dead, or the like, and only then will we believe in you. Instead, we tell him, if you're a prophet, tell us what will happen in the future. He makes a statement, and we wait to see whether his prophecy comes to fruition or not. Should even a minute particular of his prophecy not materialize, he is surely a false prophet. If his entire prophecy materializes, we should consider him a true prophet. We should test him many times. If all of his statements prove true, he should be considered to be a true prophet, as it states concerning Samuel, and all of Israel from Dan to Bereishit knew that Samuel had been proven to be a prophet unto God. The diviners and sorcerers do also predict the future. So what's the difference between them and a true prophet? So, although some of the prophecies made by diviners, sorcerers, and the like do materialize, some do not, as implied, let the stargazers, the astrologers, and the diviners of what will happen in the months come and save you from what will come upon you. Our sages teach that it specifically says, from what, rather than from all that. Also, it's possible that none of their predictions will come true, and they'll just error completely, as it states, he frustrates the omens of impostors and drives diviners mad. In contrast, all of the words of a prophet come true, as it states, God's word will not fall to the ground. Similarly, it states, the prophet who has a dream may relate his dream, but he who receives my word shall speak words of truth. What is the chaff to the grain, declares God. This implies that the words of sorcerers and dreamers are like chaff that has been mixed with some grain, while the word of God is like grain without any chaff at all, as everything that they prophesy will come to pass. Concerning this, the Torah promises that a prophet will relate the truth about those matters for which the soothsayers and diviners give false predictions to the non-Jews, so that the Jews will not need a sorcerer, a diviner, or the like. As it states, "Among you there shall not be found anyone who passes his son through fire, a sorcerer, a diviner. For these nations listen to diviners and sorcerers. God has not given you this lot. God will set up a prophet from your midst." We see from this that a prophet will arise for the sole purpose of telling us the future events which will transpire in the world, whether there will be plenty or famine, war or peace, and the like. A prophet will even inform a particular individual regarding his needs. For example, when Saul lost an object, he went to the prophet to discover where it was. These are the types of things that a prophet will say. He will not come to found a new faith or add or withdraw a mitzvah. The above principles that everything a prophet says will come to pass do not apply to prophecies of retribution which a prophet will utter. For example, such a person will die, or that this or that year will be a year of famine or a year of war, and the like. If his words do not come true, this does not nullify the validity of his prophecy, nor do we say in condemnation of him, "Behold, he spoke and his words were not fulfilled." This is because the Holy One, blessed be He, is slow to anger, abundant in kindness, and forgiving of evil. Thus it is possible that they will repent, and their sin will be forgiven, as in the case of the people of Nineveh, or that retribution will be held in abeyance, as in the case of Chizkiah. This does not apply regarding prophecies for the good. If a prophet promised that good will come and such will occur, and the good about which he prophesies did not materialize, then he is surely a false prophet. Any good which God decrees, even if the decree is provisional, will never be nullified. We do find God nullifying a positive prophecy only during the destruction of the first temple. He had promised the righteous that they would not die together with the wicked. However, he did nullify this prophecy, but that's explained further in Tractate Shabbos. We can conclude from this that a prophet should be tested on the basis of his positive prophecies. This was what Yirmiyahu meant by his reply to Hananiah ben Azor when he was prophesying doom and Hananiah was promising a glorious future. He told Hananiah, "If my words are not fulfilled, this will not lead to the conclusion that I am a false prophet. If your promises are not fulfilled, it will be proven that you are a false prophet, as implied by the verse, 'Hear now this word. As for the prophet who prophesies for peace, when the word of the prophet shall come to pass, it will be known that God has truly sent this prophet.'" When a proven, established prophet proclaims that another individual is also a prophet, we accept the latter as a prophet without requiring any further investigation. Thus, after Moshe, our teacher, proclaimed that Joshua was a prophet, all the Jewish people believed in him before he performed any wonders. The same holds true for subsequent generations. Once a prophet has made known his prophecy and his words have proven true time after time, or another prophet has proclaimed him a prophet, if he continues in the path of prophecy, it's forbidden to doubt him or to question the truth of his prophecy. When establishing the authenticity of a prophet, it's forbidden to test him more than necessary. We may not continue to test him forever, as it states, "Do not test God, your Lord, as you tested him in Morah," when the Jewish people said, "Is God in our midst or not?" Rather, once an individual is established as a prophet, we should believe in him and know that God is in our midst. We should not doubt or question him, as implied by the verse, "They shall know that a prophet was in their midst."